Wow, Epstein just exposed Donald Trump from the grave, right? Because you have Epstein himself talking behind the scenes about the man who knew about the girls, the dog that has embarked, Donald J. Trump. Or because Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released 3 bombshell emails this morning that they got from Epstein's estate, not the DOJ, which explains how they got around Pam Bondi's stonewalling. Because in case you've forgotten, it's been 3 months and a week since the committee subpoenaed the DOJ for all Epstein-related materials, and they've still only received a tiny fraction. And just the bits we've gotten today may explain why. Right? May explain why Pam Bondi's been acting how she's been acting and why Mike Johnson's been acting the way he's been acting. But getting into these emails, and as for the context, they're all from after Trump and Epstein's supposed breakup in 2004, as well as Epstein's 2008 plea deal in Florida. And so for the first email, it's from April of 2011. It's from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, in which he says, "I want you to realize that dog that has embarked is Trump. The victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." With then Maxwell appearing to respond, "I have been thinking about that." Then the next email is from December 2015, when the author Michael Wolff told Epstein that he'd heard CNN plan to ask Trump about their relationship during the Republican primary debate. And you had Epstein asking, "If I were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be?" Which Wolff replied, "If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt." Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Right? And so you had many saying it sounds like Epstein essentially had blackmail on Donald Trump. Also, you had many questioning why a journalist would be saying this to Epstein. But then also a thing here is that CNN actually never ended up asking Trump about Epstein. But then lastly, as far as the emails for now, there was another from January of 2019, right? Months before Epstein's final arrest, but weeks after the Miami Herald published a series of reports on him. You have Epstein appearing to be responding to a question from Wolff about whether Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Writing, "Trump has asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop." And at least for now, that's what we have with the bits about Trump knowing about the girls, spending hours with one of the victims, and being the dog that has embarked, grabbing the most attention. And so among the things we've seen, you had Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, saying, "These latest emails and correspondence raise glaring questions about what else the White House is hiding and the nature of the relationship between Epstein and the president." And adding, "The Department of Justice must fully release the Epstein files to the public immediately. The Oversight Committee will continue pushing for answers and will not stop until we get justice for the victims." But then also, on the other side of this, you had Oversight Republicans pointing out that Epstein's estate gave them some 23,000 other documents and argued Democrats continue to carelessly cherry-pick documents to generate clickbait that is not grounded in the facts. And as for those facts, they claim that the redacted victim's name in the 2011 email between Epstein and Maxwell is actually Virginia Giuffre, the woman who took her own life earlier this year. With the GOP posting, "Why did Democrats cover up the name when the estate didn't redact it in the redacted documents provided to the committee?" Is because this victim, Virginia Giuffre, publicly said that she never witnessed wrongdoing by President Trump. Democrats are trying to create a fake narrative to slander President Trump. And then as far as a White House response, you had Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying,
"These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign."
But with that, the most recent polling here, it proves are wrong. Or with a survey from late September showing that roughly 3/4 of Americans, they want all of the Epstein files released, and just 13% wanting only some released and 9% wanting none released. And actually, after today, the majority of Americans will be one step closer to getting what they want. Right? Because Adelita Grijalva is finally scheduled to be sworn in right around when the show goes out. She's that elected Democratic representative from Arizona that Mike Johnson has refused to swear in for 50 days now. And while many have seen that as Johnson trying to drag his feet on this whole Epstein situation, you had Johnson claiming, hey, he couldn't do it because the government was shut down, even though there's no such rule that exists, and he even swore in to Republicans who also won special elections earlier this year while the House was in recess. But you had the House coming back today to vote on the Senate's funding bill, and as of this recording, Grijalva is set to be sworn in as well. And then with that, it'll give Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie the crucial 218 signature on their discharge petition to force a floor vote on whether or not to make Trump give up the Epstein files. And with that, you had House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries saying that when she's sworn in, signing the Epstein files petition is going to be the first thing that she does as a congresswoman. But before you celebrate, that also doesn't mean that you're going to get the Epstein files. Because once she signs it, lawmakers have to wait 7 legislative days before bringing the petition to the floor. And then Mike Johnson has 2 legislative days to schedule a vote. And keep in mind, these are legislative days, not calendar days. So if the House cancels any upcoming days, that'll delay the vote even further. And even then, Johnson could use a couple of procedural tricks, such as tabling the final vote or referring it to a committee to keep delaying. And so the earliest possible time that the House could vote is the first week of December, but it also may take longer. And when it happens, there will be a series of procedural votes with hours of debate first. But then also, even if the House passes it, it'll have to pass the Senate with 60 votes, assuming that it even gets a vote at all. And then it'll go to Trump himself for a signature. And unless something changes, he would likely veto it, at which point, you'd need 2/3 of both the House and the Senate. And so for the Democrats, this does largely seem like they're trying to get the Epstein files out. But if they're not able to accomplish that, they would then put a spotlight on why. And that is that Republicans and Trump do not want the files to come out for whatever reason. So I imagine millions and millions of Americans are filling in the blank on that reason. And now at the last minute, we're actually seeing reports that top White House officials met with Representative Lauren Boebert this morning to persuade her to remove her name from the discharge petition. Right? Because if she did that, that would effectively cancel out Grijalva's signature, torpedoing the petition. But also I'll say, as of recording this, it's unclear what the outcome of that meeting was. But also, either way, with that, it seems pretty clear that Trump's panicking about this.